Hey, hey, welcome to the Breakthrough Interview Series. I'm super excited for our guest today, but a big reason and a big mission why I'm doing these interviews is to dispel the myth that there is such thing as overnight success. It doesn't exist. So I'm bringing on really fun, motivating, inspirational people that have conquered big things in this world to talk about their battles, how they broke up with the inner bully, and who they're becoming. I am a life coach that specializes in relationships with yourself and your romantic partner. So I would love to introduce my guest today, Rob Smead. There's a Smead.
No,
Oh,
Smead, you got it.
Smead. Okay.
Mm.
And yeah, tell them who you are, what you do, and then we'll dive in a little bit deeper.
Well, so I'm Rob Smead. That's you said the name right, and I'm a lot of things, but for the last 20 years, I've been a tattoo artist, and I've been heavily immersed in the tattoo industry. And in 2012, I developed a product for the tattoo industry called Electrum Stencil Primer, and ever since 2012, I've built a global brand around that name, and we've launched several products since then. The brand is known all over the world in the tattoo industry, and we just keep knocking down walls and changing the way the tattoo industry works and the products that are put into the tattoo industry. And we're just constantly trying to make it a better industry and a safer industry and a more progressive industry. And so that's what I do every day, all day now.
He's a serial entrepreneur.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think it's always fun to tell people how we met, even though we've never physically met in person. So our mutual friend, Chris, who's from my gym, told me I should connect with you and discuss self-sabotage and relationship stuff and all the things, and had invited me on his tattoo event that he was going to do and said that you have podcasts and all these things. So I just decided, let me just call you up. And I think we talked for like 3 hours, didn't we?
Yeah, I was on the way to the airport.
So we talked about all kinds of stuff, from relationships to just things that you've been through and things that you're working on. And so it's just really fun. I already consider you like a soul friend because, you know, we don't talk surface level. We go to the depths, which is what I want these to be a part. So yeah, I think that's always more special.
Yeah, I've enjoyed all of our conversations, and it's interesting.
You laugh, like your videos. The videos you sent me, I was telling a friend about today. I was like, oh my gosh. So
yeah, I'm a little out there with stuff sometimes, but you know, I feel like that's a huge part of my success, right? So like, a lot of people ask me, they're like, why do you do that? You're so crazy. Why would you ever do the things that you do? And I think it's like, it's really simple for me because it's really important to push yourself outside your comfort zones all the time, right? So like, nobody's comfortable with things like nudity or like sexuality or just like things that really push the envelope and like really challenge the way people think about things. So like, I really like to push the envelope on a lot of things, and not for the general public, just for my own personal gratification to say that, you know, I can do these things. You know, like it's okay to make a jackass out of yourself sometimes and make people laugh. I mean, it's I've gotten really comfortable in front of the camera. I've gotten really comfortable on social media and just talking to people. And interestingly enough, when you and I met and Chris introduced us, I was going through a lot of shaky things in my life, and I would say that my life was pretty much in a tumultuous state. You know, I just separated from my wife of 13 years. I was dating a new girl that was a long distance relationship. She lived 8 hours away, so that was challenging. She was quite a bit younger than me. That was another challenging thing. And you know, just trying to adjust to a new relationship with someone after being with someone else for so long of a period of time, and you know, raising a family with that person, and then all of a sudden you're single and you're dating again, and your whole head's just already in a messed up place anyways because of all the stuff that you're going through because of a major breakup. And that's when I met you, so I was going through all that stuff at that time, and I think we talked a lot about that.
We did, but I always think it's so fun and special when you can share this stuff like that, because
Yeah.
a lot of times we want to hide those things, or we want to, shove them under a rug, and we just want to deal with it because, who wants to hear that stuff? Whereas in all reality, in order to heal and to get through it, you have to talk about it. You have to face it. You have to look at it. And that's part of the battle. Like what you're saying,
Yeah.
like trying to hide from yourself, trying to, we talked about this a little bit earlier, but outwork your problems. I have a feeling in some ways that that's something you've done too, because it's something I've definitely done, where
Yeah.
like, oh, I'll just start a new project. I'll just do this. And essentially what you're doing is, yeah, you're creating something, but what's happening inside? What's your mental piece? What's your connection with others? What's your connection with yourself? And sometimes we can mask things by doing too much too.
Oh yeah. So I'm 46 years old now, right? And it's taken me a really long time in my life to get connected with the real person that I am, right? Because I've hidden behind a lot of masks in my life because I've gone through a lot of challenges. I didn't have a really good childhood. I didn't have really involved parents. I didn't have really good structure growing up. My parents were partiers. My stepdad was pretty much an outlaw biker, and I remember lots of drug usage when I was a kid, lots of partying, and lots of alone time when I was a kid. My parents were very consumed in their own world, and so I didn't have it. I didn't have an easy path starting off. We didn't have a lot of money when I was growing up. I grew up in rough conditions. And I don't think that I'm significant in any of the things that I've done. I've met a lot of people that have had a lot rougher lives than I've had. So I don't stand on a platform and say, "Oh, I've had such a horrible life," but I've had a rough life. So I've had to learn to break through a lot of mental barriers because I didn't have people teaching me the way to deal with things. I didn't learn coping mechanisms when I was growing up. So I leaned heavily on emotions like anger and frustration because those are the things that's just how I coped with things when I was a kid. And going into adulthood, I just kept those things going, and it landed me in a lot of bad places, in my teenage years. And, I went to prison for 6 years when I was 19 till I was
I
25.
didn't know that.
Yeah. See, so a lot of people I don't talk about a lot of that stuff, but like, I feel like those parts of my life are so far removed from who I am today that I don't even really reflect on those things anymore. I've dealt with those things, those chapters, and I've overcame those obstacles. So the only time I talk about them now is like in a context like this
Right.
where it's relevant to the conversation, but I had to overcome being a stereotypical male because, like I said, I grew up with pretty much an outlaw biker stepdad who was like, men don't cry, and we knuckle up when we don't agree with someone. And I mean, it's just how I grew up. So I had to learn to become softer and more in tune with my emotions. And I had to learn that it's okay to cry and it's okay to be vulnerable. Vulnerability is a big thing in my life these days. Like, I feel like when someone hurts your feelings or when something doesn't agree with you, that you need to talk about those things and you need to be able to address those things with whatever the point of tension is in the scenario, whether it be a person or a place or a thing or whatever. I mean, you can't just keep those things bottled up and letting those things pile up on your mental capacity, because then you get to a breaking point and that's when you have a mental breakdown. And trust me, I had one of those, and it was a very serious event in my life. Like, that's what led to my split with my wife. I mean, I literally had a stress induced breakdown, and it really threw me for a loop, and it put me in a really bad place. And when you and I met was when I was just kind of coming out of that whole thing. But I felt like I was living in a smoky room for a really long time. Like I couldn't make sense of anything. Nothing was clear, and literally that's the way I describe it. Like I just felt like I was trying to view life through a hazy room all the time, and I just couldn't make clear direction out of anything. And then I went to therapy for about a year and a half, pretty religiously. That helped me a lot. It just helped me get a lot of baggage out, and clear the air a lot, and helped me become a happier person again. And I spent a lot of time meditating. I started doing yoga,
Mm-hmm.
which is again one of those things that a stereotypical male would turn their nose up at. Like men don't do yoga.
Mm-hmm.
But let me tell you something. Yoga is a very powerful tool, and it will help you clear your mind in so many ways. And plus, it's healthy and it's good for your body.
Well,
You
I
know.
think also the thing, especially for a high performer, which you are, it forces you to slow down and do things that are challenging that are not going to happen overnight. And it's a discipline. I don't know if you knew this or not, but I got certified in yoga. I don't teach it anymore, but um, I was terrible at it, and I thought that I could just, muster up the strength to do the things that you do in class, and that's not how it works. And I think then when you're taught a flow in yoga and you're taught to just show up and do the things, even if you don't know how to do it, and you just try and you keep showing up, that is how you get better at anything, even when
Yeah,
you are not good at it naturally at the start. And how, especially for high performers at the end, usually they have you lay in Shavasana, which is corpse pose. So you're like dying to yourself and arising anew. That is so hard for people that go, go, go all the time, because
yeah,
you're forced to sit with your feelings. You're forced to sit with your discomfort. You're forced to be still. And most importantly, you're forced to surrender, which is so hard.
yeah.
So, I mean, I can see why that would be something that definitely has impacted you too. That
Oh,
people go for the physical, but there's so much more to it than the physical.
oh, yeah. It's the mental is way more than the physical. I mean, you have got to get. If you don't have what's up here right, nothing else is going to flow. I mean, that's just the way it goes. So, like, the best days I've ever had in my life are when I got up in the morning, grabbed my journal. Like, I keep journals beside the bed. I always write in my journals in the mornings, like that's the best time to journal because it's when your mind's fresh. You don't have any pollution in your head yet.
Yep.
You haven't checked your emails. You haven't seen any negativity on social media yet.
Mhm.
You're not faced with any problems when you wake up in the morning. So the first thing you do is grab your journal, and I write three things that I'm grateful for every day. You know what I mean? Like, I try to reflect on the positive things in my life. So I set my
Mhm.
day off with gratitude first, right? And then the best days that I ever have is if I get up in the morning and I go do yoga right away, right? Like, I just do yoga in the morning for 30, 40 minutes, whatever. And then I get a good 5 to 10 minute meditation at the end. And I'm
Mhm.
telling you, it just sets the energy. I mean, you just can't lose the positive energy if you start your day like that.
Mhm.
There's nothing that's gonna come in your path that's gonna upset your positive energy if you start your day that way. Hasn't for me, anyways. I mean, it's just if I don't start my day that way, it's a lot easier for negativity to creep in.
And you react, and you might have the frustration
Yeah,
or the anger. But I think that you've really shared a lot of the ways that you learned how to get out of your own way. You shared some of the things that helped you break up with what I call the inner bully. By, you said you did a year and a half of therapy, and I'm guessing that you still do it now. I know.
not as much, but I probably should go back and get tuned back in here and there.
Mhm.
But I got to a point with therapy where I felt like it wasn't really benefiting me too much anymore, that I gotten what I needed to get out of it. And so I kind of
Mhm.
stopped going. And plus, my therapist switched and went to a different career. Like, she started teaching instead of doing therapy. So I didn't really feel like starting that whole journey over with a brand new therapist and going through all that
Right.
again.
Right.
So ever since then, but it probably would still be beneficial to go maybe like
Mhm.
once a month anyways. I I hear people say all the time, like, I'm not going to therapy, because they feel like that's acknowledging that something's wrong with them, right? And nobody wants to acknowledge that something's wrong with them. But I'm here to tell you, there isn't a person walking this earth that doesn't have mental health issues.
Yep.
Everybody does,
Yep.
whether they be small or big. So, like, that's why vulnerability to me is such a huge piece of my success these days, and breaking up with that inner bully, because let me tell you, that inner bully is still there all the time. Like,
Mhm.
I have conversations with that person every day. That person tries to rule my life all the time,
Yep.
and it's a struggle to not let that, because that's been the overpowering force in my life my whole life, for 46 years. So it's really hard to overcome that
Mhm.
inner that inner personality, because that's the personality that's been controlling you in your life for so long. So
Well, and also with you saying that, like, basically when you were saying that you journal and you have that time in the morning to then meditate afterward, that is a morning routine. And I swear, if you want to just drastically change your life, is to set aside some time just for you, like he said, before the chaos, before you check your email, before the world starts, and just have that quiet time and you reflecting and saying the three things that you're grateful for put you in an abundant mentality versus scarcity. And it puts you in like faith and fear can't happen at the same time. So you already have faith and love and gratitude for what is, and it's going to, move out of the way all the fears that are going to come up to your mind first thing. Because I don't know about you, but for me, when I have big days, I'm like, oh, like it still happens. So it's like, okay, how can I switch that light back on to where I'm in that faith and to that love and to that gratitude? So it's like an amazing practice to just get in the habit of doing that. And it doesn't have to take very long.
No, I don't usually spend any more than 5 minutes journaling in the mornings,
Mm-hmm.
and then oftentimes I journal at night, right before I go to bed too. Like I'll go back and reflect on, because I used to write like 3 things that I'm grateful for and then 3 things that I wanted to accomplish today.
Mm-hmm.
I don't do really the 3 things I want to accomplish anymore because my to-do list is so long. It's just, what do you pick? I just, I do the, they call it the, it's like the Eisenhower. You can look it up. It's the Eisenhower something, but it's the way you do this quadrant and you prioritize the to-dos in your life. Like
Mm-hmm.
stuff that's not urgent, and 3 would be things that you could delegate to other people, and 4 would be things that you can completely eliminate from your to-do list. Like you don't even need to worry about these things.
Mm-hmm.
Ever since I started doing that, my life's gotten a whole lot easier to manage in my day-to-day to-dos. The other thing is that what you said was about taking time for yourself. I'm a workaholic, so like I will work 7 days a week from the time I wake up till the time I fall asleep at night. Like that's just, I take a day a week to myself, like a complete day. Like it could be a Saturday or a Sunday, but I completely unplug from work and I won't touch work for a whole day a week. And I have to, because if I don't, all the stuff around my house gets neglected. My pets get neglected. My plants get neglected. I have to have time to where I'm focused on prepping meals, grocery shopping, just doing all the stuff that I need to do in my own personal life, maintaining my vehicles, whatever the case.
Mm-hmm.
And then obviously just having the time to just completely unplug and do nothing, where there's time where I just want to sit down and play a video game, or I just want to sit down and veg out on a Netflix series or something, I do those things. And I'm a lot happier since I've taken time to do things for myself. It's very monotonous to just go, grind, grind, grind all the time. And I admire people like Elon Musk and like these entrepreneurs that are just like, these are the guys that I idolize, like these guys that work 70 to 100 hours a week, and that's who I've modeled myself after. I know to be successful, you have to grind like that because your competition doesn't rest, and you have to be hungrier and you have to want it more than your competitors want it. Or this is a dog eat dog world nowadays, and it gets more and more so every day. I mean, with the way technology advances, and I mean, if you're not on top of your A game all the time, you're just going to get consumed and gobbled up, and you have to stay hot and heavy all the time. So I get it, but at the same time, you have to find that balance,
Yep.
And I always tell people that have children and young children, don't ever neglect your children, right? Like that's an important thing. Your kids are only young once, and they're only gonna play baseball one time in their life. They're only gonna be wanting to do basketball, and they're only gonna want to sing in choir for specific periods of time in their life. And if you don't capitalize on those moments, you're gonna have major regrets when you get older in life. I've read a lot of business books from business people that say, "Oh, you got to be willing to sacrifice everything to get ahead in business." And I don't subscribe to those principles. I would never sacrifice my family for business ever. Like, I would never sacrifice memories for making money. The money comes and goes. Memories, you can't buy memories. You just can't. I mean, you can't regain those things. So I would never sacrifice that kind of stuff to make money or get ahead in business. It's
Well,
just
and I think that I think you said a bunch of important things, but I think that for me personally, now that you said that, I know we agree. Success is going to, whatever that is to you, you have to define what that is. You can't let the world define it for you, or you're going to crash and burn and, whatever. But a lot of times it is to leave something. So when you're no longer here, you're creating a legacy of some sort, which you're doing.
right,
But you also want to have, like, if you have a family, if you have a spouse, if you have kids, like, you want them to be a part of that, but you don't want that to be their entire world. You want to
right,
be able to show them what the grind looks like, but also show them what family time looks like. Also show them what, going out and doing fun things because you work so hard looks like. But, during this whole COVID season, there's 3 women that I look up to a lot that have all lost their marriages, that were really go, 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 go all the time, go, go, go. And I looked up to them, and I always wondered, like, when was that going to catch up? Like, were they truly balancing it? Like you saw on Instagram and when you saw all the events and things, or was something really being sacrificed behind the scene? And for me, seeing that has been like a warning and another thing that's been placed in front of me to make sure that, okay, you don't want that. Like, you want to make sure that you can do what you love to do, create that legacy, but also show your kids, your spouse, what it's like to be, I always say love legacy. You want to have that tight knit bond too. So I don't know. It's just, sometimes you see it, it makes me sad to see parts of that too, where it isn't balanced, even though I don't really think things are ever going to be balanced per se.
right.
It's not sacrifice all the time, 24/7, because that's not fair.
No, you're right. You're right. And a lot of people have to learn those lessons the hard way, and unfortunately, they get too far along in life before they learn those lessons, and then you can't go back and make those corrections anymore.
Mm-hmm.
It's too late at that point in time. So
Mm-hmm.
you really have to you just have to stay present, be present and be where you're at in the moment. And I've had to learn that, my favorite thing to do in the whole world is get into the mountains and just go hike,
Mm-hmm.
and a big part of the reason why I love it so much is because oftentimes you don't have cell phone signals when you're out that far
Mm-hmm.
and you can't be distracted by things. And I mean, I'm so prone to checking my email every 10 minutes, like I'm constantly on my phone looking at my emails or messages because I gotta just, if I don't, I get buried in it because I can't lose track of it. I get buried so fast. So, but it's nice to just be able to unplug. And like I said, I do it one day a week now, where I completely unplug and I just don't worry about work stuff. I've learned this, it's like you can have a pile of work this high when you leave the office today. It doesn't matter if you stay 5 or 10 more hours and keep
Yep.
working on that. Tomorrow, it's going to be that high still
Yep.
because more stuff's going to come in. So you just go in every day, you grind the way you're supposed to grind, you you keep your head in the game and you stay focused and you just get as much of that mountain done every day as you can. And I
Mm-hmm.
do it with that Eisenhower thing, right? That's the way I found to organize my workflow, and it works really well for me. But I've gotten in the habit of every day at 4 o'clock, I leave the office, right? And sometimes I come home and I plug in at the home office and I keep working at home. But it's my habit to leave the office at 4 o'clock every day. Like that's when I'm done.
Mm-hmm.
And because that work's going to still be there tomorrow.
Yep.
The only time I'm going to break that is if it's something absolutely urgent that cannot wait. Then I'll stick around and get it done. But otherwise, I quit at 4 o'clock. I leave the office and I come home and plug in if I have to get emails and stuff answered.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I would rather work than sit around and watch TV. I feel like I always have to be productive. That's my thing, though. Like I don't feel good about myself if I'm not being productive. So
Mm-hmm.
I have to be productive in doing something, right? My mind is a very restless animal. So and don't get confused. Like I don't think that there's ever a time in your life where you're going to completely overcome all your demons and
Mm-hmm.
completely break up with that bully. I think those are things that you constantly have to deal with
Mm-hmm.
throughout the course of your life. I mean, I still struggle with a lot of stuff, especially when I'm at home alone, and if it's a quiet day and I've got a lot of time to reflect and think about things,
Mm-hmm.
that's when my head starts wandering down weird places, and I have to really work extra hard on those days to keep my mental clarity in check, because I would tell you that I'm still a a very mentally unstable person in some ways, you know, like I still have a lot of things that I struggle with. And I'm okay saying that, you know, because as much as I am, I recognize that a lot of people are, you know, so I'm not unique. The only thing that makes me unique is that I'm okay admitting that I'm not okay sometimes, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a big part of overcoming problems in your life is that first of all, you have to acknowledge that there's a problem.
Yep.
You know, you
Awareness.
have,
Mm-hmm.
you have to acknowledge that something's not okay. And then you have to be willing to go get help. So therapy is not a bad thing at
Mm-mm.
all. You know, it's a very beneficial thing if you embrace it. And the beautiful thing about therapy is that they're not your friend. They're not a family member.
Mm-mm.
They're not going to judge you. They're not there to judge you. They're just there to listen and teach you ways to cope with things that you're dealing with.
Yep.
That's it. So you have no reason to go in there and lie to them. I have a lot of things that I'm not proud of in my life and things that I've done in my life that I'm not proud of. But when I went to therapy, I decided, you know, I'm going to be 1,000,000% honest with this person. I'm going to tell this person absolutely everything I don't like about myself, absolutely everything that I love about myself,
Mm-hmm.
because I want to get to a point where I'm in love with myself again and I'm happy with the person that I am. And when I look in the mirror, I'm not calling myself a piece of crap. You know what I mean? Like, why did you do that? Why did you treat that person that way? Why would anybody do those kinds of things, right?
Well, and do you guys hear that? Like, this is a man saying that. You know, women always think that men don't do that, and they do. Like, I have conversations with men all the time that have the same struggles. It just shows up in different ways. So, just wanted to point that out.
Well, that's what I said. You know, you have to get comfortable not being a stereotypical man. You
Yep.
know, it's okay to cry. You know, I've got I just had this conversation with a friend last night where we were talking about just sexism in general, you know, and the way men treat women
Mm-hmm.
and objectify women. And I just said really simply this: I was like, you know, any man that has a daughter doesn't do those kinds of things
No.
because you recognize that every woman is someone's daughter, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I would never be okay with any man treating my daughter the way that some men treat women. So
Mm-hmm.
I just handle myself differently when it comes to things like that. You know,
Mm-hmm.
it's not to say that I don't objectify women. I think human beings objectify the opposite sex all the time. I mean, that's just our nature. I mean,
Right.
but the way you handle your objectification is completely up to you. I mean,
Yep.
you don't have to be a schmuck. You don't have to say lewd things. You don't have to sexualize a woman or a man. You
Mm-hmm.
can treat them like human beings, and not to get off subject, but I just think that's the way in general that you have to treat human beings, and
Mm-hmm.
you just have to treat people like people. And I said it especially during COVID. I recognize, you know, and people's mental health became really apparent during all this COVID stuff when we were on quarantine, and you really saw a lot of people's mental issues come to the surface over social media a lot more than you normally would. And that's when things really became apparent to me how big mental health is an issue in the world, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so vulnerability, that's my key, you know, that's my hot word. You know, that's what I tell everybody. Just get comfortable with becoming vulnerable with yourself first and then the rest of the world, you know. Let your guard down. You don't have to. It's okay to not be okay, and it's okay to let people know when you're not okay and talk about it.
And that's the piece that I feel like you're definitely working on and have been working on the becoming piece, because you are becoming vulnerable and it takes time. It doesn't, again, happen overnight. It's stripping back those layers and thinking about like an onion and pulling back layers and then maybe taking a second, because it's a lot when you've been used to having all this armor on you your whole life, to peel back another layer. Okay, now let's pause again. Let's peel back another layer. And then you're like, holy crap. This is awesome. I don't have to be a chameleon to everybody that I'm around. I can fully be me, and I don't have to keep putting on these different disguises to fit in. You know, not that you fit in, but you know what I mean? Like, sometimes when
Right.
you're around different people or relationships, especially, is an area that a lot of people do that. I did that. You can be yourself, and then you're going to attract someone that is themselves, and then you can work on continuing to be vulnerable together. So,
Yeah.
who are you becoming besides vulnerable?
Well, I mean, I'm just becoming the best version of myself. I think that's all I strive to really be, right? I've spent so much of my life being the worst version of myself, you
Mm-hmm.
know, and even the one thing I've always recognized about myself, even when I was younger, was that even when I was at my worst, I've always been pure in my core. Like I've always had a good heart. I've always been a kind person. I've always cared about people. I've always cared about animals. I love old people. Like I've even when I was 16 years old, I used to do volunteer work at Alzheimer's place here. Like I've always had a thing for old people and children so I've always had soft spots for them. And even when I was just this horrible, and I say horrible, but I mean, I was not a good person when I was young. I did a lot of stupid things, and I did a lot of bad things, and I mistreated a lot of people in my life. So the person that I'm becoming is the complete opposite of that person. It's
Mhm.
I'm just trying to get in tune with the person that's really inside of me. Like
Mhm.
I said, I didn't have a good childhood, so I developed, like what you just said. I developed all this armor and these masks and things to protect myself. Basically,
Mhm.
I had to become a harder version of myself to survive in hard conditions. And around hard people. You can't be a soft, vulnerable person in certain circumstances, or you'll get bad things will happen to you. So
Mhm.
you have to develop survival mechanisms, right? And so the person I'm becoming is a person that's detached from all of those survival mechanisms that I had to create earlier on in my life that
Mhm.
just stuck with me throughout time. Um, I got out of prison in 1999, so that's a long, long time ago. And
Mhm.
that's why I said I don't really talk about it so much anymore because I feel like I'm so disconnected from that person anymore. Like I don't even relate to those parts of my life. It's
Right.
completely opposite of who I am today.
Mhm.
So, um, that's the person I'm becoming is just the better version of me. Just every day I just try to be the best version of me. And I just try to make every day a victory and not a loss. I've had a
Mhm.
lot of losses in my life. I'm not even when I look at my life today, I sit back and I think, I'm not even supposed to be here. Like I'm a statistic, right? Like
Mhm.
I I overcame a lot of odds to get where I'm at. I didn't have a good upbringing. I dropped out of high school in 11th grade. I went back later on and got my diploma, but I dropped out in
Mhm.
11th grade. I went to college and I dropped out in my first year of college. And this wasn't for me. I've never been a school person. I don't like structured learning. I just don't
Mhm.
excel in those environments. Um, I just do better when I go out and discover things on my own and learn how to do things with other people and have people teach me physically how to do things. That's how
Mhm.
I excel. So um, you'll never hear me say things like self-made. That's a big pet peeve of mine. I hate
Me
that term,
too, me
self-made.
too. It's like, no, you're built by everything that.
Yeah, I hate that. Like nobody's self-made. Like somebody helps you somewhere. Like
Yep.
you didn't even come into this world on your own. You know what I mean? So you haven't been self-made since day one. It's like it's such a ridiculous thing to say.
Mhm.
I am so grateful for all the people that have helped me on my journey.
Mhm.
And I wouldn't be where I am today if I didn't have help from people.
Mhm.
You know, people opened doors for me. People held their hand out and mentored me and took time out of their busy schedules to help me. And so that's another part of the person that I am today. I try to pay it forward and return those favors to other people, and help other people find success in their lives and their businesses, and
Mhm.
just whatever knowledge that I've gained along the way that I can impart on other people. I mean, that's what I want to do, and just leave the world a better place than I feel like every person that you touch, you should enhance their life and they should enhance yours. Otherwise, what's the point? I mean, that's what every relationship should be about. It should be about enhancing the other person's life and them enhancing yours and learning something from one another.
Mhm.
That's what friendship is. That's what relationships are.
That's what
That,
good friendships and good relationships are.
but that's
Not
what I'm
the
saying. You
not the
shouldn't have,
one that takes, never, yeah,
but you
reciprocates.
shouldn't have any of those kind of
Yep.
relationships in your life. You should be carving all that negativity and
Yep.
cancer out of your life. I mean, that's step one. I mean, you got to break up with the bad, not even just the bully in your life, but the bad people in your life. You got
Yep.
to break up with all that.
Yep. And it's hard. It's hard. Okay, so you've got so many things to like tell people about, offer to people. What's one thing that you would like to leave them with, or to have them follow you, or have them check out? You got lots of things.
Well, if you want to follow me, so vulnerability, that's what I leave everyone with, right? So
Mm-hmm.
when you make comments about my crazy videos, there's a reason why I make all those crazy videos, and people on the surface level don't always get it. But that's a big tool for me to become vulnerable, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
if I can get in front of a camera on social media, in front of the entire world potentially, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I can do these crazy videos that I do and do them with a smile on my face and go to sleep and feel okay about them. And don't get me wrong, there are videos that I delete sometimes. I go back and I'm like, hey, I probably shouldn't have done that one. You know, but those videos are what has really helped me become comfortable with vulnerability, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
when you go do stuff like that, then it becomes easy to go into a therapist's office and just be like, blah, 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 blah,
Yep.
or have conversations like this with you
Yep.
or other people. It's easy to talk about my struggles and my challenges. It's not
Mm-hmm.
because I recognize there's nothing wrong with me. Like I'm not different than anybody else. Like
Mm-hmm.
I said, we all have struggles. We all fight with demons inside. We've all done things we're not proud of. A lot of us are still doing things we're not proud of.
Mm-hmm.
It's how you choose to wake up every day and what you choose to do when your feet hit the floor and the direction you choose to walk in every day. That's the power that you have.
Yep.
That's the things that are totally in your control.
Mm-hmm.
So when you decide to take control of those things, then you'll start learning how to master your life. It's just that simple to me. And so what I leave people with is just learn to be comfortable being vulnerable with yourself first. You got to tell yourself the truth. Like
Mm-hmm.
that's another thing too. Like it's so easy to lie to ourselves. It's so
Mm-hmm.
easy to lie to us. We can lie to ourselves easier than we can lie to anyone else. We
Yep.
can tell ourselves any truth that we want to tell ourselves, and we can make ourselves believe anything about ourselves that we want to believe. But when you start being nitty gritty honest with yourself, then you start breaking through barriers, right? You start getting through obstacles. You start learning the person that you really are underneath all of that armor and those masks. Because
Mm-hmm.
when you wear those things so long, you start separating yourself from your true identity. You start becoming these different things. So you have to figure out who you really want to be, who you really are at your core, and you have to be vulnerable and you have to be honest with yourself and you have to work to develop that person.
Mm-hmm.
And then you only put on those other hats when you need to put those other hats on.
Well, and it's really like all those pieces of armor, what we talked about, those are things that you have to break up with every day.
Yeah.
It doesn't, we think it's like this, sometimes when you feel like your life is a mess, you look at it and you're like, oh, I got so much stuff to do. Just do one little thing every day. And you're going to be surprised if you were to let go of one negative thought or one thing that you know is not serving you or one person that's not someone that should be in your circle. And you do that every single day. That's 365 days. Like that's a lot of stuff that you just detoxed out of your life. So I think that we overcomplicate things too much. But if you just break it down like that, again, that's going to lead you to your vulnerability.
Yeah. It's just small chunks. Journal.
Yep.
Focus on one thing, like you just said. Focus on one thing you want to change about yourself instead of trying to focus on the whole picture. Just
Mm-hmm.
dial it on one thing. I wish I wasn't such an angry person. I wish I didn't react to things so negatively all the time when things go
Mm-hmm.
bad in my life. I want to work on that right there. I want to work on changing the way I react to things. I want to react to things in a more positive way. Focus on that one goal until you get that goal mastered. Then move on to the next goal. But don't focus on anything except for that one thing until you've got that thing nailed.
Yep.
And then work on the next thing you want to change about yourself. It's just like going on a diet, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
I want to stop drinking soda pop, right? I need to drink more water, whatever the case may be. You have to make a daily regimen to make those things happen. Otherwise, you're just going to go grab a soda pop out of the refrigerator every time you get thirsty. You have to overcome that laziness in your mind and do that. Read the book Ishmael. I'll tell people that book will change your life. It will change the way you feel about humanity and the way you view the world and the way you view yourself. I read that book. I'll read that book at least 2 or 3 times a year. I mean, it's the best book I've ever read in my life. So
Wow.
read Ishmael. And if you want to follow me, I'm No Flash Ninja on Instagram, Facebook, Rob Smead. You find me on TikTok. I'm No Flash Ninja there. That's where all the crazy videos happen. And then electrumsupply.com, that's my business. Electrum Radio is my podcast. Robsmead.com is my website too. That's my
Yeah,
personal
go ahead.
development website.
Serial entrepreneur right here.
So yeah, if you just Google Rob Smead, you'll find all kinds of stuff. So
Well, thank you so much for taking the time out to be on here and sharing part of your story. I just love you. You've got great energy, and you are such like a lover of people and of service and just creating beautiful things in this world and sharing it in a way that only you uniquely can do. So I think that you are changing the dynamic of a male's perspective in ways that you probably don't even realize, especially by doing stuff like this.
yeah. Actually, I was going to do when we were just talking before we went live, and I was talking to you about reformatting my podcast.
Mm-hmm.
That was another idea that I had. I wanted to do I don't really know how to format this, but I suppose maybe you and I could have a talk about it online. Maybe you'll have some ideas. But
Yeah.
I wanted to do more of a podcast on the way I think as a male, right? And the way I interact with women and just the way I am as a male, like I'm still a man. Like I'm a very manly man. Like
I'm a man.
I am a man's man, but I'm also very comfortable with letting my male stereotypical persona setting it to the sidelines and not being that when I need to not be that. Like males typically are not very good at things when it comes. Males are not good with emotional stuff generally. So I think it's very important to talk to men about those kinds of things and get men to become comfortable with those kinds of things, and maybe if they hear it from my perspective and I can find some other males out there that share the same perspective as me, maybe we can change some things. Tattoo industry especially is very, very plagued with sexism and things like that. It's a very male dominant industry already. And it's sad because there's a lot of female talent out there that's very, very talented. And a lot of times their talent gets overlooked because of the way they look or the way they dress or whatever, you know what I mean? And it's an unfortunate thing, so I would like to change the perspective of some males. I have two daughters. My daughters are very beautiful women. And luckily they're with very good men that treat them very well. But they haven't always been. I mean, they've had rubs in with some bad men in their lives, and it'll puts different things in perspective when you raise daughters, and any man that has daughters would tell you that probably.
Well, I think it's also the neatest thing to watch very strong, driven men have that vulnerability around whether or not it's women and they share different things, or with kids or with daughters. Like they see that like softer side, but it doesn't mean they're soft. Like it means they're human. So I think it's a beautiful thing to watch that and just be like, man, they are strong in so many different ways. They can lead, they can provide, they can protect, they can love, they can be soft. Like to me, it's a well-rounded view of what a man should be, not this hardened aspect that doesn't let people in. So I think you could do some amazing things with that.
Right. And this will I'm sure you're going to get a lot of comments from men on this, what I'm getting ready to say. But I'm actually a very smart man, right?
Yes,
I recognize that females are the superior species on this planet. Like, right? I know that. Men are the strength, women are the brains. That's legit truth. Now, it's not like that. It's not a blanket statement. I mean, there are some pockets of instances where that's not always the case, but in general, females are the dominant species of our race.
Yeah.
That is a fact. The world would be a completely different place if women ruled it. That's 100% true. So,
well, thank you so much. Guys, follow him. Listen to all the things that he said. Listen to this again. Apply some of the things that he did and does to help break up with that bully. So thank you again.
Yeah, feel free to drop me DMs, whatever. I'm open to the public. I like talking to people. So thanks for having me, and I love you too. And congrats again on your engagement.
Absolutely. Thank you. Bye-bye, guys.